The 1999 science fiction film The Matrix, directed by the Wachowskis, is a wonderful example of how film can carry philosophical content. The Matrix includes a number of philosophical concepts and thought experiments, most notably including Plato's Allegory of the Cave as a narrative parallel for the protagonist Neo. Take a moment to imagine a dark underground cave inhabited by humans who have been inside the cave since birth. Their bodies are chained up and made to face only the cave wall, a fire behind them, unable to turn their heads. The prisoners start to observe passing shadows of animals and objects, learn to identify them, and start to label them, giving definition to what they believe is reality. Suddenly, a prisoner is released and finds a way out of the cave, but is immediately blinded by the sun. Having been accustomed to the cave for so long, his eyes find the brightness dazzling and very painful. Slowly, he adjusts to the world, discovering what he believed to be reality was only mere shadows of the outside world. He has learned so much of what makes shadows, how the seasons work, and has finally seen the light. Neo can be seen as a prisoner in Plato's cave. Before his enlightenment, Neo lived in reality, informed only by his senses that he is indeed real, just as the prisoners in the cave understood the shadows on the wall to be their reality. Neo also found readjusting to life outside the Matrix to be unpleasant and painful. His eyes hurt for he'd never used them before, too long had he been in the dark. However, over time they adjust. He can see not only the form of objects he once knew as shadows, but he can see them in their ideal state. He can see the code of the Matrix. But the Matrix does not only examine one aspect of philosophical thought, but instead takes inspiration from multiple philosophers and their beliefs of skepticism. The Matrix explores a futuristic world in which computers have enslaved humankind. The humans are farmed as an energy source, and their nervous systems are hooked into computers that create a perfect virtual world for each of them. While fancy computers are not, strictly speaking, necessary for discussion of skepticism, bringing technology into the picture makes skepticism an easier sell. Descartes examines his senses and perceptions in his Meditations of First Philosophy to see what truths he can believe without any doubt. First, he establishes his senses have faltered before. He has fallen victim to optical and oral illusions, so any reports he has received from his senses cannot be trusted. Additionally, he has had dreams that were indistinguishable from reality. He contemplates his belief in God. Surely he would not deceive him in disputable facts like mathematic calculations. However, what if God was not what we are led to believe, but perhaps an all-powerful demon who seeks for us all to fall into error at every turn, even in solving calculations like 1 + 2? Skepticism causes him to call into doubt his powers of reason, for he cannot know for sure that this is not the case. Alas, Neo and the other rebels face this problem of doubting everything they see as they experience the Matrix, completely self-aware of the fabricated world. Neo's skepticism is an important form of defence in the Matrix, as he cannot trust anyone to be who they say they are. Though we can understand skepticism, not all of us choose to accept it and its consequences. For example, we see David Hume's suggestion that humans cannot mentally sustain skepticism and fall into the general comfortable belief that ignorance is bliss. Take Cypher, one of the enlightened few who knows of the Matrix.
Do we have a deal, Mr. Reagan?
You know, I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious. After 9 years, you know what I realized? Ignorance is bliss.
Though we do not know of Cypher's life before he knew of the Matrix, it must have been much more pleasant than being used as a power bank by alien invaders, and then being recruited to be part of a revolution to free the enslaved human race. Having to subject his senses to new stimulation, and missing even luxuries such as social interaction or a good meal, one can understand his craving to be back home.
I know what you're thinking. 'Cause right now I'm thinking the same thing. Actually, I've been thinking it ever since I got here. Why, oh why didn't I take the blue pill?
David Hume, though a great defender of skepticism, defended the claim that skepticism is irrelevant to real life. Perhaps the untrained mind is too simplistic and used to relying on our senses and become wired to believe what we perceive must be an accurate reality. And the more sensory confirmation we receive, we become more stubborn in that belief. Hume thought that the chances of skepticism having this sort of impact were small, because he felt no one could maintain skepticism as a lifestyle. To briefly summarise the answer to our question, can film contain philosophical content? The answer is yes. The Matrix includes a number of philosophical concepts and thought experiments, including Plato's Allegory of the Cave, Descartes' analysis of skepticism, and David Hume's belief in unsustainable skepticism in humans. The film shares a lovely reflection with a quote from Plato that reads, "We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light." Perhaps The Matrix gave us an opportunity not only to be entertained and educated by a film, but to actively question our own philosophical enlightenment. Though skepticism may not be a sustainable lifestyle in long term, I see no reason why we should not entertain a skeptical thought or two, to realise that we do not know nearly half of what we think we know. As Socrates once wisely claimed, "I know that I know nothing."